All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Amanda with the Content Marketing Institute. Thank you so much for joining us for today's live stream. As always, you can find us here pretty much every Monday at noon. And today's live stream is an Ask the CMWorld community. We have such a great community of very generous influencers and experts who are willing to share their expertise, their experience, and their insight with all of you. So we're super excited. We have another great one lined up for today. If you don't know what the Content Marketing Institute is, we are the leading training and education organization for all things content marketing. You can find more at contentmarketinginstitute.com. We have two really great events. We have one coming up called Content Tech Summit. It's coming up June 8th through the 10th. It's all digital. You can find out more at content.tech. So hurry up and sign up. We have plenty of spaces for all of you. And of course, our signature event is Content Marketing World. That's where we get our CMWorld hashtag from. It is September 28th through October 1st, and we have both online and in-person options. So we are super excited about that. So as always, I see some of you checking in already. So feel free to drop me a note in the comment section. Say hi. Let us know where you are joining us from. We see Kareem, Patrick, everyone. We have people from all over too. Please let us know where you're joining us from. We love to see that as well. All right, today's live stream, we are talking about freelancing. Even before the pandemic, freelancing was one of the fastest growing employment sectors in the world. According to the website Don't Do It Yourself, there are about 1.1 billion, that's billion freelancers around the world. And that's not expected to slow down now that many people have discovered they kind of like working from home. So if you've taken the leap, or maybe you're just considering striking out on your own today, we have some tips from an expert on how you can be successful at freelancing. All right, so we usually do our question of the day, but I kind of thought we'd do a little discussion of the day. If you are a freelancer, drop us a note and let us know, what are some of your biggest pet peeves as a freelancer? This ought to be, I'm hoping this makes for a little interesting discussion. All right, so let's get to today's guest. It is Michelle Garrett. She is a public relations consultant, a content creator, a blogger, a speaker, an award-winning writer. What else? Oh, she's named the top digital PR leader in 2020. Her blog was listed as the top 25 must-read public relations blogs. And she's a founder and the host of the Freelance Chat, which is a super awesome weekly Twitter chat for freelancers and consultants. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Amanda. So nice to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So I kind of like going along with the pet peeves question. I think this first one that kind of goes along with that. What are some common myths about freelancers or freelancing, I guess, in general?
Well, I really think some people see freelancers as kind of fly by night, not reliable, that kind of thing. And I find that to be so interesting because, I am a freelancer by choice, which I think many of us may be. I think there's a perception that people just kind of fall into it and they're just kind of doing it, just for now while they're in between other gigs. But a lot of us are deliberate about it and have made it a career and are extremely reliable, when you need some help.
Right. Someone says they're sharing some of their pet peeves. They said our discussion of the day is share with us some of your freelancing pet peeves. Celeste says finding new clients on my own. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Billy says scope creep is number one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, JK, join us. Hi, JK. Thanks for joining us today. As I said, if you're joining us talking about freelancing, drop us a note in the chat. Let us know say hi. Let us know where you're joining us from. All right. Question number 2. If you finally decide to strike out on your own, what is the best way to we talked about, to market yourself? How can you find projects that fit your goals?
Well, that's a great question. I think that initially, one of the things that I did that worked really well was I told everyone before I even started my own business that I was going out on my own. And so from day one, I had 3 clients lined up just because I told my coworkers that, obviously you can't like tell everyone because some people would probably be upset if they knew you were quitting your job. But you know what I mean? You can kind of tap into your network and just let them know that you're planning to do this and that you'd be looking for some work. And actually, when I left my agency, they even hired me back as a subcontractor. So, that's one way. And I started my business before social media. So, I mean, now that social media is here, that is definitely somewhere that you need to be out there marketing yourself, talking about what you do, and also just kind of engaging with people on chats. Like CMWorld is a great place to meet people on Twitter. And, LinkedIn is great. Whatever you're comfortable with on social media, I wouldn't try to do every platform because it can get to be kind of overwhelming and then you might not want to do any of them. So focus and see where your audience is.
All right. Let's go to our question. It is, all right, where are good places to generate leads and find work opportunities in your business?
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of success with social media. Twitter is my primary platform, but of course, a lot of people like LinkedIn. I also think having a blog, regularly, consistently blogging, and then also contributed articles, guest posting. That's been a very successful way for me to also reach new people that might not otherwise, be familiar with my blog or it helps me reach other audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of publications are looking for guest posts. So I think that can work really well.
I was going to say, going back to that other question is finding something that fits your goals. Is it sort of like if you want to focus on freelancing in like the healthcare industry, or so you would say like focus on, blogs or Twitter chats or LinkedIn, you're finding those, focus on those industries, right? Like where you would want to get the work.
Yes. For example, I like manufacturing. So I'm always I've been on some podcasts about manufacturing. I have guest posted for ThomasNet, which is a big, player in that industry, and just looking for opportunities. It'd probably be a lot easier in some industries than in others. I think healthcare probably has a lot of, outlets that might be interested in guest posts and things. So.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about freelancing with Michelle Garrett. And one of the questions I asked was, share with us some of your pet peeves as a freelancer. Charlene says, main pet peeve would be clients underestimating your value, which we'll kind of touch on that in a minute. Kareem says bad unstructured briefs. That's another one of his pet peeves. We have people joining us from all over today, Michelle. Jordan, India, Portugal, Paris.
Macedonia in there.
Paris right now. Philadelphia. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Us today. Macedonia. Hello. Oh, Farouz says not finding a team to work with on projects. That's a pet peeve of his. Okay. Nolan says negotiating fees. So touch on that in a minute. As with any job, there are highs and lows for independent workers. So how can you sort of get motivated when the going gets tough? You and I were chatting about this a little bit ago. How can you kind of prepare for can you prepare for some dry spells?
It's definitely, I think you have to be mentally ready because there are ups and downs. I mean, when you work for yourself, there are going to be times when you're going to be very busy and you're going to be wondering, how do I get all this work done? And then there will be times when you were like, where's my next, project, my next client coming from? So you have to kind of get used to that. And some people are not, it messes with their head a little bit. Like, I think you have to kind of prepare yourself and know that's going to happen, and then save money, for the rainy days. And, always be networking. I'm always talking to people. One of the things I have learned is that even when I'm busy, if somebody asks me if I'm interested in a project, I usually take that call anyway, because sometimes, maybe they're not looking right now. Maybe it's in 6 months they need help, which when you would be available again. If it is immediate and you can't take it, you can always refer to someone in your network. And so I think it's just good to make that connection and have that conversation. It doesn't take too much of your time. And I think I used to be of the mindset, oh, well, I'm too busy, so I'm just going to say no, or I'm just going to refer them. And now I'm really more likely to have that 15 to 30-minute call or whatever, just to find out more. And a couple of times I've done that, I'm like, oh yeah, they don't need help immediately, so I don't need to panic. I should just have that conversation.
That's a great tip. That's great. Yeah, you never know. You never know. Never burn any bridges, right?
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So what questions should freelancers ask potential clients when deciding which projects they want to accept? This is a good one.
Well, there's so many, and we do talk about this a lot on Freelance Chat, kind of finding those red flags and kind of figuring out like what's a good fit. Because I think a lot of times, I think, we have a lot of writers that come to the chat, and I do some freelance writing. I think in that case, it might be a little bit easier to get clear-cut answers, but I know with PR clients, sometimes they don't really even understand what PR is. And so you need to be asking questions about like, what are your goals? Like, what are you trying to do? What do you expect this to help you accomplish? And then you just need to have that conversation. A lot of times it's an education type of effort, because they don't understand it. So they can't really answer your question until they know exactly, what you can do for them, because there are things that PR cannot do. It's not magic. It's not like you wave a wand and, tomorrow you're in the Wall Street Journal. And, so I feel like it's good to have the conversations. And of course you don't want to just have endless conversations and do, lengthy proposals without being paid for any of that time. But I think you need to at least, especially if it's a bigger project, a bigger, longer term client, you do need to really kind of try to get answers to some of those tougher questions, because if you don't, you're going to probably regret it. Because I've had that happen as well when I was less experienced, and I just kind of like, oh, I'll take anything, it doesn't matter. Like, but no, now I'm probably a lot pickier about like just having the conversation at least, and then you can make the decision about whether or not it is a fit. Because sometimes it's just like, well, this isn't going to work for me, and I think you have to feel okay to say no sometimes.
I think that's really hard to say. You don't want to, turn away work, but
yeah,
it's just not the right fit.
Yeah. And then sometimes when you say no, it opens up opens you up to opportunities that are a fit. And in fact, I had that happen to me, early this year, where something wasn't working and I had to end it. And then bingo, it really, the floodgates kind of opened when I got rid of that problematic client. So yeah.
Yeah. And don't you love when they call and say, can you get me on Good Morning America tomorrow to pitch my product or
it just doesn't work that way, And I mean, I know Rand Fishkin talks about this all the time, the Wall Street Journal problem. It's an ego problem. It's almost like, well, we think we need to be in the Wall Street Journal because we think it's going to do this for us. Whereas if you really explain, well, your audience really isn't reading the Wall Street Journal. They're reading the tech, journal. They're reading, the industry vertical publication or the blog or whatever. So I think if you can just maybe I think education, especially with PR clients, is really a big deal, because it's just, we're just not on the same page a lot of the times, and so I think it's really important to have those conversations and not be afraid of just, you can be nice about it, but just explain like, here's what can happen. And, we don't, we don't control what's published. We don't control what goes on the air. We just, we do our best to get you the opportunity, position you, and help you with your messaging and all those types of things, but we do not have control over when and what. I mean, that's an ad. So that's just
right. That's kind of where you have an awesome blog where you could probably just be like, here's an article that I wrote on my blog about X, Y, or Z. This will really explain it. So you can point out, like, even without going into a whole lengthy, explanation, like just go read this and you can see what's really going on, how
Yeah.
it really works.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, this is the one I think everybody wants to know, everybody talks about. How do you go about determining a standard rate? Should you charge by the month? Should you charge by the hour?
Mm-hmm. Again, I think it varies according to the type of work you do, the type of clients you work with. I mean, I think the goal, at least for me, is to have 1 or 2 retainer clients that you can rely on, hopefully that are, maybe sign up for 6 months or a year. And then you can do projects as you have time. I work by myself. I'm a sole proprietor. I don't have a team. I do sometimes, work with subcontractors, but there's a limit, to how much work I can take. And so, in that situation, I'm really trying to move away from hourly billing, which I think is the advice of many, that are freelance experts would tell you. Billing hourly, it commoditizes what you do, as opposed to projects or retainers. And so we're actually going to be talking about this on the chat this Thursday, on Twitter at noon on Thursday, noon Eastern, hashtag freelance chat. We have a guest that's coming on and she will help us talk about pricing. So it's very relevant.
That will be a good one. I think I'm going to tune in for that one. So where else? So we know the freelance chat, we can check you out. Where else can we find you, Michelle?
Well, like I said, I'm on Twitter probably far too much just because, there are journalists on Twitter. So for me, in my line of work as a PR pro, I need to be active on there. And so I am on there quite a bit. I'm at PR is Us on Twitter. I do have a blog on my site. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn, of course. And those are some of the best ways to keep up with me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. What a great, all this great knowledge you're dropping on the audience. I appreciate you taking the time. As she said, she's got her freelance chat coming up Thursday at noon. So be sure to check that out. That'll be a good one. So thank you all for your comments and sharing your pet peeves today. Like seeing all of those. So everyone have a great day and we will see you